I hope he's not coming for my head. Oh, I do like my head, do I?
Marty, calm down, yeah? Not gonna come for your head. You're on land, and they're extinct, and you're a puppet. You don't technically have a head, you're just a plastic shell. Sometimes. Welcome back, everybody. So, against my better judgment, I've decided to do another Prognathodon video. Hey! Oh, blooming hell. Now, today's topic is going to be on, yes, Prognathodon, but we're going to do an interesting species of Prognathodon. Maybe Prognathodon, probably not. We'll discuss that. So, today we're going to discuss Prognathodon kianda. Or really, Prognathodon kianda. Yeah, oh yeah, it's one of them. So, Prognathodon kianda was a mosasaur that was found in the southwestern region of Africa in the country of Angola, specifically in the area of Bentiaba. I do apologise about some of those pronunciations. This Yorkshireman has a very thick Yorkshire accent. Hey! Now, initial discoveries of this were during the early 2000s when they found some of the first specimens of this particular species in the Bentiaba quarries. And to be honest, there was quite a lot of material of this animal. There were nearly complete premaxillars, basically the front of the jaw, with those particularly prognathous teeth, where Prognathodon gets its name from. You had some beautifully preserved maxilla, basically the cheekbone, with those cheek teeth in place. You also had some fantastic bottom jaws, again like the maxilla, they had teeth in place, which is really, really good. And you had various elements of the back of the skull, so this was quite a relatively complete skull for a mosasaur. Now, there's a lot of features in this specimen, along with other Prognathodon kiandae, that made the authors put this particular taxon in Prognathodon because it looked very similar to Prognathodon or Prognathodons, and that's why this species is within Prognathodon but actually probably isn't Prognathodon, which is very, very confusing, which is what I didn't want to do Prognathodon again, but heaven above. But to be fair to the authors, they actually did take some of the morphological features and code them into a phylogenetic analysis, which actually showed that this taxon was recovered within Prognathodon, but this was back before we knew that a lot of these Prognathodon species weren't actually Prognathodon. Oh, you're having a laugh. Head of the tail again. Acknowledge me, hee hee. However, in recent years, Prognathodon kiandae has actually been recovered closely allied with Remarkably heterodontus, a Moroccan mosasaur that shows heterodont teeth, hence its species name. And there are some similarities between these two particular species. So, for example, the teeth in particular of Remarkably and Prognathodon kianda are very smooth, but occasionally you do get ridges on some of the teeth, and I've actually seen this personally in a Remarkably teeth. Now, whether Prognathodon kiandae is a Remarkably or a close relative, we're not sure at the moment. There needs to be more analysis and more detailed descriptions of some of these bones. And maybe there's a lot of interchange between North Africa and South Africa with mosasaurs, as you might see later in the video. So the rocks that contained Prognathodon kianda not only contained it, but a whole host of other marine reptiles and some land fauna that got swept out to sea. And these rocks date to around about the Lower Maastrichtian, so possibly around 71 million years ago. Now, on land you had dinosaurs and you had other animals, including pterosaurs, but it's the marine stuff we're really focusing on, oh yeah. So you had various sharks, you had various plesiosaurs and turtles, but you had a load of other mosasaurs alongside Prognathodon kianda. On the smaller end, you actually have the 2-meter-long Carinodens, a small little crushing mosasaur that might actually be a close relative of the sawtooth mosasaur, Xenodens. You had a species of Globidens, Globidens phosphaticus, which was the bigger bruiser-type crushing mosasaur that got to around about 5 meters in length. And these had some really, really weird teeth. These were sort of mushroom-shaped, and they were perfectly built for crushing up the oysters that were in the region. Some of these oysters could be up to 1 meter across. Yeah, as big as a dinner table. There was also another species of Prognathodon, Prognathodon satirata, which is known from some elements including teeth. However, based on the recent analysis of African satirata that actually might be Flacetitan, the Angolan satirata could be Flacetitan, which just goes to show there's even more crossover between North Africa and South African mosasaurs. Now, some of you are probably wondering, why haven't you mentioned Angolosaurus, the small Plioplatycarpine, and the larger Russellosaurian Tylosaurus imbenensis? That's because those two probably didn't live alongside Prognathodon kianda and the other mosasaurs I've just mentioned. They actually lived a little earlier during the Turonian period, so about 10 to 20 million years before. Now, there is one more mosasaur that I didn't include, and that's because we'll discuss it in a second. But it's quite an interesting story about this other mosasaur, and it does tie into Prognathodon kianda. It's like Free Willy, this. Hey! Be free, Willy! Be free! So, last year, 2023, a remarkable discovery was described, and it involves Prognathodon kianda and a whole bunch of other mosasaurs. So, being about between 6 and 8 meters, Prognathodon kianda was probably a big bruiserweight within the ecosystem of Angola during the Maastrichtian, and this specimen above proves that. So this specimen of Prognathodon kianda actually contains the remains of 3 other mosasaurs in its stomach. And not only that, but one of those mosasaurs is a new genus. I mean, that is daft. That is really just daft. That is stupidly daft. So, what happened here? So, this specimen of Prognathodon kianda, highlighted in blue, was about 6, maybe 7 meters in length and was found with several mosasaurs in its stomach. So, what are those mosasaurs? Don't. So, first up, we have the long-snouted Gave Yalamimus, the sort of gharial-like mosasaur that was first described in Morocco and has actually been found across Africa and even South America. Partial skull remains of this animal were actually found in the stomach contents of this Prognathodon kianda, and the individual that these came from were actually probably small. This was probably a 4-meter long individual, so not really that big, probably a subadult. So another mosasaur that was found within the Prognathodon kianda's stomach was actually another Prognathodon kianda. It's actually the anterior of the snout, which appears to have been bitten off and then swallowed, which, yeah, brutal. Brutal. So the actual size of this individual, which was the anterior of the snout found inside the stomach of the other Prognathodon kianda, is around about 4.5 meters. So that's a bit interesting that it sort of went after another individual of its species, potentially as prey, and quite a large individual as well. Now, the third and final species of mosasaur found in the Prognathodon kianda's stomach was actually a new genus named Bentiarbosaurus jacobsoni. So even though this poor mosasaur had its head bitten off, the head was swallowed and then sort of shifted into the stomach, there was actually quite a lot of articulated and well-preserved material to actually name a new genus off this material, which is really exciting. Now, there's a lot of aspects of this animal's skeleton that make it unique from other mosasaurs, and I won't go into that unfortunately, but basically a lot of the skull elements, a lot of the neurovascular complexes inside the skull, and aspects of the vertebrae make this animal distinct from other mosasaurs. And those features actually helped us ally it with Plotosaurus, a sort of weird ichthyosaur-shaped mosasaur. And this particular individual was only about maybe just over 3.5 meters in length, so again, a small mosasaur that was picked off by a much larger mosasaur, unfortunately. Now, for those of you who've been paying attention, you will have noticed that all these 3 mosasaurs are represented by cranial material of the head and the skull. So, what was going on here? Why was this particular Prognathodon kianda targeting heads? So this headhunting mosasaur, if you like, probably wasn't scavenging dead carcasses of other mosasaurs because it would have gone for the softer, easier, more digestible material. I mean, skull bones, infamously, are not that digestible. Now, the paper describing this doesn't really go into any implications as why this mosasaur did this, but it could be for a numerous amount of reasons. It could even be down to nutritional benefits. Maybe consuming a certain amount of bones was beneficial for this particular individual of mosasaur. Now, unfortunately for this Prognathodon kianda specimen, it unfortunately died pretty soon after it consumed these 3 mosasaurs. Now, there are tooth marks from sharks found on the ribs of this particular Prognathodon kianda, along with some isolated teeth of another specimen of Prognathodon kianda found around the skeleton, but it's unclear what killed this animal. It could have been a whole host of different reasons. It could have been combat with another mosasaur. It could have been an infection in the stomach from eating all these skulls. We just don't know at the moment, but it's a really interesting insight into the behaviour of this particular animal. Hopefully in the future there'll be more research on this particular specimen and why it targeted heads of other mosasaurs, and this can really give us some better insight in not just Prognathodon kianda's behaviour, but mosasaur behaviour as an overall, and hopefully we can resolve the Prognathodon problem with this particular species. I'm betting it's a Remarkably. Alright guys, hope you've had a good time. See you later. Ta-ta.